and thank you for tuning in to Starting Small. Today, I'm joined by Heidi Zak of ThirdLove. Heidi, thank you so much for joining me today.
Excited to be here and talk to you.
Yeah, so I'd like to start out with your upbringing. Where did you grow up, and what would you say your childhood was like?
I grew up in a town called Youngstown,
Mm,
which is not Youngstown, Ohio, is Youngstown, New York. It's about 15-20 minutes north of Niagara Falls on the New York side. And it was a small town. I mean, my town had probably 3,000 people in it. So it was
mm,
pretty small. It was pretty rural. And it was reasonably simple, I guess. There was one elementary school, one middle school, one high school.
yeah,
Everyone sort of knew each other. It was a pretty small community. And yeah, I don't know. I think it was more rural than it was urban. That's for sure.
got it. So growing up, what were some of your aspirations and interests? Did you sell any lemonade stands or sell any products or anything like that growing up?
Yeah, no, I was not the person who was the young entrepreneur
Yeah.
necessarily. My first job at 14 was working at a farmer's market in Youngstown, where I grew up. And it
Mm,
was a very large farmer's market.
yeah.
And so I did all the in-store merchandising of the produce. We had an old-fashioned cash register
Mm,
from, I think, the 1800s, and we would write out all the orders, and there was a lot of customer service involved. And as you could imagine, small town, you kind of knew a lot of people who came in often.
yeah.
Uh, and, I had other jobs as well in high school and college, from waitressing to teaching at summer camps.
Mm,
But for me, I did always really like retail. So
mm.
that was definitely something that I enjoyed. And a lot of my, what I would call my more summer jobs revolved around the retail space.
Certainly. I saw you went on to study at Duke. What did you end up studying there, and what was that overall experience like? And were you involved with any athletics or clubs?
Yeah. So when I was in high school and actually younger, I did competitive gymnastics most of my sub 18 years old. So I
Yeah.
spent 20 hours a week at,
Oh,
at peak doing in the gym.
yeah.
And I, as I thought about college, and I wasn't good enough to do D1 or D2, but could have done potentially D3.
Mm,
Just really made the decision that I wasn't going to do gymnastics. It was just had gotten to be a lot, and I
yeah.
wanted to just focus on the college experience. So,
Mhm.
yeah, I ended up going to Duke. It's kind of a funny story, because this will age me, I suppose, but I was looking through the U.S. News and World Report book, which was really kind of what there was the internet, but no one really used it at the time. So, I mean, I
Yeah.
would go through this huge, Bible of a book, and I was reading about a lot of different schools. And my parents wanted me to stay closer to home, and I stumbled upon Duke. I had kind of heard of it, didn't really know a ton about it. And I read the description, and I was like, this sounds like the right school for me. And
Mm,
my parents were like, Duke, North Carolina, like, what are you talking about? And they were like, well, if you get in, we'll go see it.
yeah.
And so I had never seen it. Hadn't visited, and I applied early, and I
Mm,
ended up getting in, and then
wow.
we went down there to see it. So I actually had gotten into the school before I had visited it,
Wow.
but, said yes. And that's how I ended up at Duke.
Mm,
Where, I was a tour guide at Duke. I gave other students tours, and I also worked at the local YMCA teaching gymnastics in Durham,
mm.
and I waitressed and did a lot of other jobs as well while I was there.
Incredible. So what did you end up studying there? And what were some of the aspirations through your experience there as well?
Yeah, so I originally thought I might want to be a lawyer,
Mm,
and I started off doing a lot of poli-sci. Then I decided, oh, this is not a good idea. So I ended up majoring in economics. I minored in poli-sci, and then I also got the year I was there, while I was there over those 4 years, Duke implemented a brand new program, which actually still exists today.
mm.
I think it's called something slightly different, but it was called Markets and Management. In essence, it was an entrepreneurship
Got
program.
it. Yeah.
And so we did a business plan and created a business plan, and we worked in teams. And that was one of my favorite experiences at school.
Mm,
And I really, really liked that. And today, actually, a lot of the students come and visit me every year at ThirdLove's office. A bunch of Duke students come out to Silicon Valley to
Awesome.
learn more about different companies. So it's interesting to hear that program's still going on. But yeah, it was more of a general business
Mm,
focus, though it was econ, and Duke is a liberal arts school, so they don't
yeah,
have true business classes.
got it.
Yeah.
Incredible. So I heard you mentioned retail, and I also saw kind of some of your background, like very cool experiences. Aeropostale, you got into Google as well. What could you kind of describe your career journey, and especially leaving Duke, then kind of what path you took?
Yeah. So as is probably still the case today, there's a lot of banks and consulting firms that came on campus
Yeah.
to interview. And so I would really wanted to move to New York after college, and my parents were like, "Great, we'll find some way to support yourself." So
Yeah.
um, so when I was thinking about what role to take, a part of it, honestly, was what job could I take where I could support myself in New York.
Mm,
And so obviously those are two of the more taxing jobs in terms of hours, but
yeah.
also, have pretty good pay. So I did a lot of consulting and banking interviews. I ended up taking a job as a banking analyst at Bank of America
Mm,
in their retail group. So I went to their retail consumer group, and I was there for 2 years, worked really hard, but learned so much. I would
yeah.
totally do it again if I had that choice. I would do the same thing.
Yeah.
And then I went to McKinsey for a couple of years, but really what I was trying to do was get into a retail company on the
Yeah.
ops side. And what was really hard, and one thing that I came to realize, was that it was really hard because everyone was trying to get me to go to the finance department because that was my
Mm,
background, right? So I got a lot of job offers that were more like financial analysts at a retail company. I'm like, I don't want to be in finance my whole life.
yeah.
And I knew that. And so that's kind of how I made the decision to go to business school, was because I really wanted to sort of change my functional area and keep retail, but move
Mm,
to the company side. And all of those movements, seemingly were really hard. It was also, when I graduated, there was a recession. And so
yeah.
there wasn't as many opportunities. And so business school made a lot of sense. So
Mm,
that's why I went to business school.
yeah.
And then business school, basically, uh, it was kind of the same as undergrad, where a lot of people and most of my classmates took jobs in banks and consulting firms, both for their summer internships and after they graduated. And
Yeah.
so I was one of the last people in my business school class to get an internship. I
Wow.
remember talking to my parents. I think it was legitimately end of April, early May. And I think classes were ending like around Memorial Day. And I did not have
Mm,
a summer internship, and everyone else did. My parents were
yeah.
like, "You went to this business school. It's really expensive. You're, this time and money. And like, what do you do?" And I was like, retail companies hire at the last minute. And I was doing cold emails and cold calling companies to find a summer internship.
Oh my goodness.
So my friend and I, we were both leaders of the retail club at MIT. We would get together. We'd open open a bottle of wine. We'd have a glass of wine. This is like end of day after classes, and
Yeah.
we just like start cold outreach and cold emails, putting together a list, figuring out contacts, and just reaching out. And I actually got in touch with the head of HR at the time at Aeropostale. And
Mm,
he was like, "Actually, our SVP of new business is looking to bring in a summer intern this summer." And so I took the train from Boston to New York. I went in to meet with him, and I ended up getting that summer internship, which turned into
wow.
my job. But definitely it was not because I was just taking interviews of like what came to campus. It was a
Yeah.
lot of scrappiness trying to find the right job.
Wow. I love that. It kind of correlates with your college journey early on using the book. I'm curious, how did you find these contacts? Was it online? And then how did you navigate towards like HR, get a hold of them? How did that work?
So it's interesting. I had taken this class at Duke, which is a really good class. It was a sales class.
Mhm.
And what was really interesting is that, one thing you come to realize, I think, especially after business school, is it's not like, it's always these classes that you're sort of like, what's the point, that are the most impactful. So sales is, if you think about sales is something everyone does at their job. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter what you do. At ThirdLove, if I think about today as a CEO, like, what do I spend a lot of my time doing? Like, I'm in sales.
Yeah,
Like I'm selling ThirdLove to a partner. I'm selling ThirdLove to investors. I'm selling ThirdLove to potential candidates and employees.
for sure.
So I had taken the sales class and it had this method of how you reach out. Like what's the intro? How do you talk about the person and say something unique to them to
Mhm.
get their attention? And then how do you keep it short and snappy and make it really easy for them to say yes to something? So there's a bunch of these things. So really using that format, and then
Yeah,
always following up with a phone call. And again, I think today, picking up the phone and trying to get in actual contact with somebody is really important, because if you can get somebody on the phone, a lot can happen.
yeah.
So yeah, it's just a lot of kind of perseverance of reach out.
It's incredible. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear kind of around this time, 2012 is when ThirdLove comes to play. When did the ideation happen? What was the inspiration, and where were you working at this time? What were you doing?
Yeah. So after I had been at Aeropostale about 5 years and then moved to the West Coast to Silicon Valley. And I ended up, instead of going to another retailer, which I was debating doing, I ended up going to Google because I
Yeah.
really wanted to work for a tech company. And so I was at Google having a good time, but knowing that it probably wasn't my long-term career path.
Yeah.
And I was honestly just inspired by all these entrepreneurs I was meeting.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, I kind of had that moment where I was like, I think I could do this myself.
Mm.
And so, but didn't really have a business idea, or had some ones that were great ideas. And then I was shopping at a Victoria's Secret store. So, I had that moment. I was in the mall in the Victoria's Secret store buying bras, not a great shopping experience, the smells and the velour and the pink stripe bag and all the things that I
Yeah.
realized walking out the store that I really disliked. And to me was anti who I was as a
Mm.
person, yet I was spending my money with this brand because
Yeah.
there weren't really other options. So when I went home that night, I was doing a lot of online research because I'm like, somebody's got to have an online bra brand. And there were none. And by none, I mean vertically integrated, kind of digital first
Yep.
bra brands. There were zero. A few launched around the time we did.
Yeah.
At that time, there were none, and D2C, direct to consumer, wasn't a term. It didn't even exist at that point.
Yeah.
So there was a real opportunity, obviously, to go after a huge titan in the industry who
For
had
sure.
not evolved very much at all in 30 years.
For sure. So going on, what was the prototyping process looking like? What were you trying to solve with kind of Victoria's Secret and kind of transferring into ThirdLove? What were you trying to solve in that market?
Yeah, a couple of things. I mean, on the product, more sizes, more inclusive sizes. So
Yeah.
Victoria's Secret now has a lot more sizes. At the time, they barely went above like a double D.
Mm.
We went much higher in terms of our cup sizes. We're still the only brand in the world that offers half cups. So we have this A.5, B.5. So just like shoes have half sizes, our bras have half cups.
Yeah.
And that offered a lot better fit for women. So that was like one point of differentiation. The second was really a brand for the modern woman. So we were one
Mm.
of the first brands to really take a step back and say, what does it look like to market to women instead of men in intimates?
Mm.
And then the third was really the digital experience. So how would we sell a product that's super hard to fit
Yeah.
online? And that was actually a huge question we would get from investors in the early days, is like, if such a fit heavy category, how can you ever sell it online? So having
Yeah.
our fitting room, developing that technology, to really allow a woman to be able to find her size from the comfort of home was hugely important.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously something that, Victoria's Secret wasn't doing any of those things at the time.
Yeah. I would love to hear about, especially like the virtual styling. What did that launch when ThirdLove launched, and how did that kind of software, how does that look?
Yeah, I mean, we actually originally launched with an app. So we had technology on an app that let a woman size herself. And what we came to
Mm.
find over, a year or two was a lot of early adopters were super comfortable with their iPhones. And this is iPhone 3 and 4. So early days
Yeah.
of iPhone, right, using it. But a lot of other people were like, I'm not comfortable shopping through an app or sizing myself this way. So we transitioned from the app to our fitting room in probably like 2016, I think.
Yeah.
And since then, it's really been a web-based version of how we help a woman find her size.
Mm. I would like to dive into the 24/7 t-shirt bra, which really ThirdLove is kind of like revolves around, specializes in. Can you kind of describe that product line and what inspired that specifically as well?
Yeah, so that was our first hero product because when we set out to build our first bra or create and design our first bra, it's like, what's the bra that is the ubiquitous bra that most women wear every day?
Yeah.
And what we call it, women call it the t-shirt bra. And what that means is it's sort of your everyday bra. It's that bra that you can wear under almost anything and it makes you look good and it makes your clothes look good. And
Yeah.
so our idea was, how do we build a better t-shirt bra? So at the time, a lot of t-shirt bras had really hard foam cups. They were very kind of made you look a little more artificial. And so we
Mhm.
used a different type of foam that was super lightweight, really conformed to a woman's body shape, and just had a much lighter, more natural look and feel.
Yeah.
And we always said, it's a bra so comfortable, you'll forget you're wearing it. And so
Mm.
that was really the idea behind this bra was, could we create something that she would forget she had on during the day?
Mm.
And that's what we really did with our hero product,
Incredible.
which is still our number one seller today. I mean, we have a lot
Wow.
of other styles, but still
Yeah.
today, it's still our top seller.
That's amazing. So what about marketing, especially at launch? I'm sure it kind of changes into today, but how do you market? Kind of explain. You mentioned direct to consumer, the investors were questioning, but how do you market, especially a bra online? What did that look like?
Yeah, I mean, look, early days till now is very different. In the
Yeah.
early days of ThirdLove, no one knew who we were and no one trusted us. Today, if somebody hasn't tried it, they've probably heard about our brand from a friend or have a friend who wears it.
Yeah.
But in the early days of ThirdLove, we had great bras. I was doing our Facebook ads at the time, and our CPAs were like hundreds of dollars. And we're like, this is not going to work.
Yeah.
And we knew we had great product. And so we came up with this crazy idea, and it was called Try Before You Buy. And the idea was, we'll ship a bra to a woman, let her take the tags off and wear the bra for 30 days. And if she loves it, she keeps it and she pays us for it. If she doesn't love it, we'll pay for return shipping. So
Wow.
to de-risk the whole purchase and also not take any cash up front.
Mm.
When I say this today, everyone's like, whoa, well, these programs exist and, all yada, yada. And it's like, we were the first to do it. And then
Wow.
people copied it because it was pretty impactful. And so
Yeah.
and there's a lot of other services that kind of offer this experience. I mean, we built it by cobbling together a bunch of stuff on the back end and all this stuff. It was crazy, but it worked. And
Yeah.
so, really, because no one knew us, it was really, really important. We were able to convince her to try us.
Mm.
Today, I think we have other challenges. There's always a challenge you're overcoming. I mean, today we have a lot more styles.
Mm.
And so it's really about how are we communicating, the value of those styles to a customer in a way that really makes sense, that's compelling. But marketing is, look, the landscape is constantly changing, the customer is constantly changing. So it's a never ending cycle of trying new things and testing
Yeah.
and learning.
With those learnings and the feedback with the marketing, I'm curious, do you find a main demographic for ThirdLove, age range, roughly? I know it's universal product for women, but what would you say?
Yeah, I mean, the core is the 25 to 50-year-old woman. I would say it's more probably about her household income or her mindset than it is her age
Yeah.
as much. So we kind of refer to it as adulting. I think there's some point in your life where you want better quality products. You want things that aren't going to fall apart. You want things it's quality over quantity.
Mm.
So I think that's really an important milestone. And some women may act that way when they're 18, or some women may be 30, but it's more of an outlook versus an age.
For sure. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And then I saw last year that you guys actually acquired Kit Undergarments. Can you kind of explain the inspiration behind that, especially bringing on a whole new kind of product line with what they were selling?
Yeah. So because on average, our customer is in, our top demographic is 30 to 40.
Mhm.
As we thought about Gen Z and what that customer wants and how we get a customer who is younger to come into the fold. And she may not be ready for the t-shirt bra or whatever,
Yeah.
but there's other products we could offer. It really made sense to, partner with Jamie and Simone, who were the founders of Kit, and bring them in the ThirdLove family so that we had a vehicle for product and branding that was more targeted to that customer who was in her early 20s.
Yep, certainly. I'm curious, how does the two work together? Are the co-founders still working with you guys as well from,
Yeah.
how does that
Yeah.
look?
Yeah. So it's still early days. We're still figuring out
Yeah.
the exact product positioning and the exact brand positioning. So that's still a work in progress.
Mhm.
And we're just still kind of testing what's working.
Yep. Certainly. Kind of concluding here, I would love to hear what is besides the t-shirt bra, what would you say like line wise is the top seller for ThirdLove? You can even add in their underkit garments with there as well.
Yeah. So we have a couple top long running styles, a plunge bra, a fuller coverage bra, but I would say most exciting has been, we launched in sports about a year and a half ago. So we have an active bra called the Kinetic, and
Mm,
it's a cup band size sports bra. So same bra sizing as our regular bras. And
yeah.
that's growing really, really quickly and has done really well. So it's exciting not just to be in a different bra, but it's really truly a different category. I mean,
Yeah.
active is a whole nother category.
Yeah.
And then we've been launching a lot of new styles lately, like our minimizer and our unlined bra, that have just been really well received and
Mm,
have really gone well above what we've forecasted.
mm,
So it's exciting to see there's a lot of market potential beyond kind of the core of what we're doing,
yeah.
and more to come too.
I love it. Well, I like to conclude each episode with this. If you can share one piece of advice with an aspiring entrepreneur, maybe something you've learned or regret along the way, what would you say that would be?
Oh, this question. There's so many things.
Yeah.
Let's see. I think that when you are hiring, and I get this question a lot from earlier stage entrepreneurs who are going to hire their first one or two or couple employees,
Mhm.
I always say what you should do is take a step back and create a list, right? And on the list, you should write a couple bullets. It doesn't need to be that many, 3 to 5,
Mhm.
of what are your superpowers? What do you love doing?
Mm,
Right. And really identify and write it down. It's really important you write it down and you look at it, because
yeah.
usually what you're good at is your superpower. It's what you enjoy doing most of the
Yeah.
time, almost all the time, 99%. And then think about your business and where you are at any moment in time, because it changes, of course, as you scale, and what's super important for your business to be successful. What are those skills? What are the things that need to get done tomorrow
Yeah.
to make your business successful? And list out a couple of those things.
Mm,
And then see where there are holes, because there's you and your skill set and what you're really good at. And then there's the things that are crucial, super crucial to your business, right? Whatever
yeah.
those couple things are. And if you do that, then you can really identify, if you're going to hire one or two people, like what do their superpowers need to be?
Yeah.
Because I think oftentimes, and I've done it myself, you get kind of convinced that you need something because somebody else told you they hired somebody
Yeah.
in a similar business, or you hire somebody who's very similar to you because you
Mm,
like them and you get along with them. It's
yeah.
a terrible idea, because in essence, you're not solving for your real needs. So I think being very strategic when you're making hires, this is a very long-winded answer
No,
to
this is
your question.
perfect. This is perfect.
But yeah, I think really being really thoughtful, because you don't have that much money to spend on hires. And
Yeah.
I just didn't do that well for a long time.
Mm.
Yeah.
I mean, I normally don't ask a follow-up after that, but I would love to hear what were those first hires for you? That's a good point.
Well, I did. Well, I should say the first hire actually did follow this, because the first hire was a bra designer who's my co-founder, who's still at ThirdLove. So
Mm,
that is very obvious. If I want to start a bra company and I'm more the business side of retail, the first person I should be looking to hire is somebody like her, who
yeah.
is creative and a designer and all the things, right? So
Yeah.
that made sense. I don't have other specific examples other than probably then maybe, my next 5 or 10 hires weren't maybe as strategic,
Yeah.
in terms of just skill sets, or, what I needed someone to execute on.
For sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, amazing. Heidi, thank you so much for joining me today. And to the listeners out there, make sure to check out ThirdLove at thirdlove.com.